During the Second World War, the German Panzer generals were the subject of a great deal of myth-making, both in German and in Allied propaganda. After the war, this entered a new phase with the publication of self-exculpating memoirs, studies for the U.S. Army Historical Division, and uncritical biographies. Only relatively recently has a great deal of research been done to reassess their role both in a professional military capacity and in terms of their individual participation in Germany's war of annihilation in the East. We therefore know a great deal more about what these men did and how they did it, but that does not always provide the answer why. If the image of the German Panzer generals was built on a myth, then who were these men beyond the stylized propaganda images and resolute military orders? For the great bulk of German generals in the Second World War, there are no private wartime papers, letters or diaries, to study. Whether this is because families have withheld such evidence or because it has simply been lost is largely unknown. From what does exist, it can be hard to generalize too much about a common service culture for a number of reasons. Like any army, there were numerous and distinct branches of service: infantry, artillery, panzer, intelligence, supply, etc. There were 4 ranks of general, entailing very different duties and responsibilities. There were many theatres, some much more active than others, and finally the different periods of the war contrast hugely from each other. Much of the commentary about the German generals in the Second World War overlooks these differences and attributes to them a generic set of experiences as well as a mindset that is as often false as it is correct. This study attempts to establish a more complete picture of one of the most important groups, the command of the Panzertruppe, particularly in 1941 on the Eastern Front. In total, there were 6 German generals who served as Panzer Group Army commanders in 1941, and this study assesses 4 of them based on their private wartime correspondence. These include Colonel General Heinz Guderian, Panzer Group 2, Colonel General Erich Hoepner, Panzer Group 4, General of Panzer Troops Georg Hans Reinhardt, Panzer Group 3 as of October 1941, and General of Panzer Troops Rudolf Schmidt, Panzer Group 2, as of late December 1941. The 2 other Panzer Group commanders in 1941 were Colonel General Ewald von Kleist, Panzer Group 1, and Colonel General Hermann Huth, Panzer Group 3 to October 1941. Since the latter 2 generals have no known wartime letters that have been made available for research, I have excluded them from this study. While a traditional biography seeks to chart a life story, this is not what I'm attempting here. The focus is on the period in which the letters were written, 1941, and the many new insights they offer.